License and registration.
Good evening, officer. Can you tell me why I'm being stopped?
Just show me your license.
I will, but I'd like to know what I did wrong.
You're getting real smart with me right now.
I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just asking a question.
Keep talking like that and things will go.
The night was quiet, and the air around the gas station felt still, almost calm. The bright lights above the pumps made the whole place feel open and safe. A young police officer, only 23 years old, was about to make a mistake that would change his life forever. His name in this rewritten story is Officer Mark Rendell. He had been on the job for only 3 months, still learning, still unsure, but trying hard to look in control. He did not know that a simple moment of pride and fear would end his whole career, cost his town $10 million, and bring the United States Department of Justice into his small police department. The man he would hurt that night was not a criminal. He was not a danger. He was not aggressive or violent. He was a calm, respectful, and unarmed U.S. Army officer named Lieutenant Aaron Miles, quietly sitting inside his car with his hands showing. He was confused, unaware of danger, and only asking what crime he was being accused of. But instead of slowing down, instead of speaking with respect, Officer Rendell lifted his pepper spray and released it through the car window. With that one action, everything began to break apart. Earlier that day, Lieutenant Aaron Miles had been driving back to his base after visiting his family. He was 32 years old, with 11 years of military service. He had been sent to Afghanistan and Iraq. He trained younger soldiers and earned awards for leadership. He was trusted. His commanders respected him. That evening, he was tired from the long drive. He stopped at a BP gas station to fill his tank. The place was quiet, clean, and safe. The night was soft and warm, so he kept his windows down to let the air move through his vehicle. Aaron wore only the top half of his military uniform, the familiar digital camouflage, but with regular pants and boots. He wanted to be comfortable for the long drive. After filling his tank, he paid inside and then parked his car at the side of the lot. He wanted to check the GPS on his phone to see if there was a faster route back to base. His engine stayed running, and he had no reason to be alert. He felt safe. Then he saw the patrol car. At first, he did not worry. Police cars stopped at gas stations all the time. But this one behaved differently. The patrol car slowed behind him and then stopped directly behind his vehicle, blocking him in. Aaron looked through his mirror and saw the officer step out. The young man moved with stiff confidence, the kind that usually belongs to someone trying to look stronger than he feels. Aaron put his phone down and placed both hands on the steering wheel. He knew how to handle police stops. He stayed calm, kept still, and waited. The officer walked to the driver's side window, flashlight in hand, even though it was bright enough to read a book under the station lights. Evening. License and registration, Officer Rendell said. Aaron kept his hands on the wheel. Good evening, officer. Can I ask why you're stopping me? License and registration. Aaron spoke gently. I'm happy to give that, but can you please tell me why you were stopping me? I'm parked. I'm not driving. I have not done anything wrong. The officer's jaw tightened. You got temporary tags. I'm verifying the vehicle. Aaron looked at his plates. They were normal, regular Virginia plates. Not temporary. Not expired. Officer, these are not temporary tags. They are regular plates. You can run them if you want. I have done nothing wrong. I'll decide what's wrong. License now. There it was, the change in tone. It was no longer about checking tags. It was about showing control. Aaron took a slow breath and did everything the right way. I am going to reach for my wallet now. It is in my back pocket. My hands are visible. He moved slowly and handed over his driver's license and military ID. Officer Rendell barely looked at the military ID. He walked back to his patrol car. Aaron waited. He did not fear anything. He had done nothing wrong. He simply wondered what was happening. Inside the patrol car, Officer Mark Rendell stared at the IDs. He came from a military family and should have respected service members, but that night he felt something else. He felt challenged. He felt that Aaron was too calm, too sure. In Rendell's mind, calmness meant disrespect. It meant the man did not fear him. It meant he did not see Rendell as the one in control. That is how bias works. Instead of seeing a soldier resting at a gas station, Rendell saw suspicion. Instead of seeing calmness, he saw defiance. Instead of recognizing that Aaron had done nothing wrong, he imagined danger where there was none. He ran the information. Everything came back clean. No trouble. No reason to continue. That should have been the end. But Rendell chose to continue. He stepped out of his car again and walked back to Aaron's window. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. Aaron frowned, still polite. "Step out for what? You ran my information. I am sure it came back clean. What is the problem?" "I'm not going to ask again. Step out." Aaron stayed calm. "Officer, I am asking you a simple question. What crime have I committed? Why are you escalating this?" "You're refusing a lawful order," Rendell snapped. "I am asking for clarification. That is not refusal. That is my right. Step out of the vehicle." Aaron kept his hands on the wheel. "I am not stepping out without a legal reason. I am parked on private property. I have not broken any law. You need reasonable suspicion or probable cause to order me out. You do not have either." In that moment, Rendell lost control. Not because Aaron was dangerous, but because Aaron knew his rights. Rendell let his ego guide him. "Last chance," he warned. "Get out, or I'm coming in." Aaron spoke with calm strength. "Officer, I am a United States Army lieutenant. I am on leave. I am parked legally. I have not broken any law. You need to call your supervisor right now." "I don't need to call anyone." "Then you are about to make a huge mistake." Rendell reached for his pepper spray. Aaron raised his hands even higher. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what are you doing?" "I'm not a threat." "Get out of the car." "I'm not." And then it happened. Rendell raised the pepper spray and released it straight into Aaron's face. The burning was instant. Aaron cried out, grabbed his face, and fought to breathe. "Get out! Get out now!" Rendell yelled, his voice shaking. Aaron forced the door open, stumbling out, eyes closed in pain. On the ground. Aaron dropped to his knees, then to his stomach. Tears and mucus poured down his face. A second police car arrived. Officer Leah Vaughn stepped out, took one look, and froze in shock. She had never seen anything like this. "What happened?" she asked. He refused to comply. Rendell answered too quickly. Leah saw the uniform. She saw the pain. She saw the wrong. "You pepper sprayed a military officer?" she asked. "I didn't know." "You didn't ask." Supervisor, EMS, and the long chain of consequences began from that moment. The real story started after the gas station lights, after the flashing red and blue, after Lieutenant Aaron Miles was helped to sit up with water running down his burning face. Because what happened that night did not appear out of nowhere. It was the final result of many warnings, ignored signs, and a police department that had been careless for years. Officer Mark Rendell should never have been allowed to patrol alone. Many people had said it before, but no one listened. During his time at the police academy, Mark Rendell had been flagged several times. One instructor wrote, "Overly aggressive in role-play scenarios." Another wrote, "Struggles with de-escalation techniques." A third said, "Tends to view challenges to authority as personal threats." And one instructor, after watching Rendell react angrily to a simple training exercise, wrote, "Cadet Rendell has the physical ability and knowledge to pass, but he has problems with emotional control. Recommend extended field training." But the Windsor Police Department did not follow that recommendation. The department was low on officers, and they needed new people on the street fast. So they hurried him through training and pretended the warnings did not exist. When Rendell finished the academy, he was assigned to a field training officer named Corporal Daniel Kearns. During those weeks, Kearns wrote 2 reports stating that Rendell was not ready for solo patrol. Officer Rendell escalates situations too fast, Kearns wrote. He often interprets calm questions from civilians as disrespect. Needs more training on rights, communication, and behavior under pressure. Corporal Kearns told his supervisors that Rendell needed more time. He was worried, but the supervisors ignored him. They wrote in the file, "Officer Rendell shows confidence and strong initiative. Minor problems can be fixed with experience. Cleared for patrol." And that was it. Rendell was sent out alone, with a badge, a gun, pepper spray, and the confidence of a young man who believed he was ready, even though he was not. 2 weeks before the night at the gas station, Rendell had stopped a woman named Sharon Lee, a nurse on her way to work. She had asked him a simple question: "Why am I being stopped?" Her tone was normal, not rude. But Rendell reacted with anger. He threatened to arrest her for obstruction, even though she had done nothing wrong. A supervisor arrived at the scene and calmed things down. Sharon was sent on her way with no ticket. But the supervisor did not write a report, and Rendell faced no discipline. No one checked the behavior. No one asked why a calm nurse had almost been arrested for nothing. Because no one checked that stop, because no one corrected him, Rendell believed his behavior was normal. And that belief stayed with him until the night he stopped Lieutenant Miles. At the gas station, after Officer Lee Vaughn arrived, everything became messy. Vaughn quickly called for the shift supervisor, Sergeant Henry Mason. When Mason arrived, he asked for Rendell's body camera footage. He watched it standing beside the gas pump, his face becoming more serious with each second. He saw the approach with no legal reason. He saw Aaron's calm questions. He saw how quickly Rendell lost patience. And then he saw the pepper spray. Sergeant Mason took a long breath. "This is not good," he said softly. He called for medical assistance and ordered Rendell to step away. EMS arrived and helped Aaron wash his eyes with solution. Officer Vaughn apologized over and over. "I'm sorry, Lieutenant. I'm so sorry. This shouldn't have happened." Aaron could barely talk, but he managed to say, "I didn't do anything." "You didn't," she replied. "You absolutely didn't." Later that night, Sergeant Mason filed a formal incident report. He wrote clearly that the stop had no legal basis and that the use of pepper spray was not justified. He recommended an internal affairs investigation. He believed the department would finally address the problem. He was wrong. The police chief, under pressure from the local police union, delayed the investigation. Instead of suspending Rendell, the chief simply moved him to administrative duty. He released a public statement calling the incident unfortunate, but describing Rendell's actions as consistent with his training. The department hoped to end the situation quietly. They did not expect Lieutenant Miles to push back, but he did. Aaron contacted military lawyers, civil rights organizations, and legal groups. Within days, the story spread fast. Video footage of the pepper spraying of a uniformed military officer went viral. People across the country demanded accountability. Veterans were angry. Community leaders were angry. Civil rights activists were angry. Then the United States Department of Justice stepped in. The DOJ began an investigation into the Windsor Police Department. They looked not only at the incident with Aaron, but at everything the department had done in the past several years. What they found was alarming. There were 47 complaints about excessive force. 89% of them involved black civilians. 23 complaints about illegal stops. 0 officers disciplined for violating laws or rights. Repeat offenders with no consequences. Asterisk training records showing rushed certifications. Asterisk ignored warnings from instructors and supervisors. The DOJ concluded that the department had a pattern or practice of violating constitutional rights. In simple language, it meant the department had been breaking the law for years, and no one inside the department had tried to stop it. The DOJ discovered that Officer Rendell was not just one bad officer. He was the result of a system that had stopped caring about doing things the right way. After the DOJ report, Lieutenant Aaron Miles filed a federal lawsuit. The lawsuit named not just Rendell, but the entire department. It included asterisk unlawful seizure, asterisk excessive force, asterisk violation of the Fourth Amendment, asterisk failure to train officers properly, asterisk supervisors ignoring red flags, asterisk a system that allowed misconduct to grow. The evidence was too strong for the town to fight. The attorneys told the town council that going to trial would be a disaster. The insurance company agreed, so the town chose to settle. They paid Lieutenant Miles $10 million, one of the largest civil rights settlements in the state's history. But Aaron wanted more than money. He wanted real change. As part of the settlement, Aaron's attorneys demanded that the town accept a consent decree. A consent decree meant the police department would no longer control itself. The federal government would now supervise it. They would watch every action, every report, every use of force. The department had no choice but to accept. This decree ordered the department to make big changes. Asterisk longer training. Asterisk monthly de-escalation practice. Asterisk bias training. Asterisk a review board for any force used. Asterisk body camera footage stored externally. Asterisk automatic investigations for repeat complaints. Asterisk public reporting of all police actions. Asterisk more community involvement. Asterisk psychological testing for bias. Asterisk restrictions on promotions for officers with complaints. The department was forced to rebuild itself from the inside. Officer Mark Rendell was officially fired after the internal affairs investigation ended. The findings had no doubt: unlawful stop, no legal reason for force, and behavior unfit for any officer. His police certification was removed forever. His name was placed on the National Decertification Index, so he could never work as a police officer anywhere again. His attempt to challenge the firing failed. Even the police union refused to help him after the DOJ findings were made public. His career was finished. When the court settlement was announced and the consent decree took effect, most people thought the story was finally over. They believed the money, the apology, and the federal supervision were the ending. But for Lieutenant Aaron Miles, something deeper had started. The night he was pepper sprayed had shaken him, not only because of the pain, but because it revealed a truth he had tried not to see. He had always believed in respect, in discipline, in following rules. But that night showed that even when a person did everything right, he could still be treated like a threat for no reason. For weeks afterward, Aaron woke up at night with burning eyes, even long after the pepper spray had worn off. He had dreams of standing at the gas station again, trying to explain himself, trying to stay calm, trying to breathe. He remembered his chest tightening, his heart beating fast, and the fear that rose when Rendell shouted for him to show his hands, even though they were already visible. The fear did not come from danger. It came from the knowledge that the officer was not thinking clearly. Fear came from the feeling that logic did not matter. He replayed the moment over and over. The sudden spray, the sharp pain, the voice inside him saying, "Stay calm. Do not panic. Do not give him a reason to get worse." And then another voice answered, "There was no reason to begin with." But even with the pain and anger, Aaron never allowed bitterness to grow roots in his heart. He refused to let this experience change the way he saw himself. He refused to let it take away the discipline he worked so hard to build. His commanders noticed the quiet heaviness in his eyes, but they trusted him to work through it. They had seen many soldiers carry wounds that were not on their bodies. At the same time, something else was happening in Windsor. The people in the town were talking about the incident more openly now. Some residents had known there were problems in the police department, but they did not realize how deep those problems went. Others had never believed officers could behave that way until they saw the video. And some people tried to defend Rendell at first, but after reading the DOJ report, even they fell silent. Community meetings grew larger. People asked questions. Why were red flags ignored? How many officers had been promoted without proper checks? How many other people had been mistreated but stayed quiet because they thought no one would listen? One woman stood during a meeting and said, "This did not happen because of one officer. It happened because the system was broken." A man replied, "If the system had listened earlier, we would not be here now." These conversations were difficult, but necessary. They began to change the town slowly. People who never talked to each other before were now sitting side by side in the same room, discussing safety, fairness, and justice. Meanwhile, the federal monitors arrived to begin their work. They set up an office inside the police headquarters. Every time an officer used force, they reviewed it. Every time someone filed a complaint, they looked into it. Officers now had to explain every action clearly, and they knew someone was watching. Many officers did not like being monitored, but some quietly admitted that it was needed. One officer said, "We should have fixed ourselves before the government had to do it." For Officer Leah Vaughn, the change brought a mix of emotions. She had been the one who helped Aaron at the gas station. She had been the one who told the truth in her report. Even though she did nothing wrong, she still felt embarrassed that the department she worked for had allowed this to happen. She attended extra training sessions without being asked. She volunteered to speak at community meetings. She wanted to show that not all officers were like Rendell. She wanted people to see that many officers cared deeply about doing the right thing. One evening, months after the settlement, she met Aaron at a coffee shop. They were both off duty. She sat down with her cup and said softly, "I'm glad you're okay." Aaron nodded. "Thank you for what you did that night." "You shouldn't have needed saving," she replied. They talked for a long time. She told him that the DOJ investigation had opened her eyes to things she had ignored for years. She had always believed the department was fine, even when small signs suggested otherwise. She told him she wanted to be part of the change, no matter how hard it was. Aaron listened. He respected her honesty. He knew that real change required people like her. People who were inside the system, but willing to push it towards something better. In another part of town, Officer Rendell faced a very different reality. After losing his job and certification, he tried to find security work, but most companies rejected him once they saw the reports. Some people online defended him, but their words did not change anything. He was not a police officer anymore. He had no badge, no authority, and no path back. He lived alone in a small apartment. Sometimes he scrolled through news articles about himself and read the comments. Many were harsh. Some were supportive. But one sentence from a DOJ official stayed in his mind. Officer Rendell was not created in one day. He was created by a system that allowed dangerous behavior to continue. He blamed the department for not correcting him. But deep down, he also knew that he had ignored instructions, warnings, and training. He had chosen pride over caution. He had seen calm questions as challenges to his power. And now he was paying the price. The town moved forward without him. As the months passed, the consent decree began to show results. The number of unnecessary stops went down. The use of force dropped sharply. Officers began writing clearer reports because they knew missing details would be questioned. Community trust, although still fragile, began to rebuild slowly. Aaron observed all this from a distance. He did not want attention. He avoided interviews. He did not want to be seen as a symbol or a hero. He simply wanted people to do what was right. But something unexpected happened as the year went on. Young service members, students, and even older veterans began reaching out to him. They told him their own stories of being mistreated, disrespected, or misjudged. Many had stayed silent because they feared no one would believe them. One veteran wrote, "Seeing you stay calm, even when you were wronged, helped me heal." Another said, "Your story gave me courage to finally speak about my own experience." Aaron realized something important. His pain had become a doorway for others to find their voice. He had not planned it. He had not asked for it, but it happened anyway. Slowly, the fear he carried began to loosen. Not disappear, but loosen. He learned something that stayed with him for the rest of his life. Sometimes suffering becomes a message. Sometimes pain becomes a light that shows others the way out of the darkness. And even when the memory still stung, he told himself something he repeated often. "What happened to me will not break me. It will build something better." In the months that followed, the town of Windsor continued to change. Slowly, step by step, the police department began to look different. The consent decree was still active, and the federal monitors were still watching every move. Officers now carried notebooks where they wrote details for every stop. Supervisors checked body camera footage at random. Younger officers were trained longer and taught to speak calmly even in stressful moments. They learned to listen before acting. They learned that authority did not mean shouting, but understanding. The once quiet training room was now used more than ever. Officers practiced scenarios in which the person they met was confused, scared, angry, or simply tired. They learned how to prevent small problems from becoming big ones. They learned the importance of respect. And they learned that safety did not come from force alone, but from clarity, patience, and control. At the same time, Aaron continued working at the military base. He returned to his duties fully, but he carried a new awareness with him. He looked at younger service members with more attention. He noticed when someone seemed troubled. He recognized signs he had once missed in himself. When someone came into his office nervous or unsure, he spoke gently, knowing how easily fear could twist a moment. One day, a young soldier named Private Lucas Ward requested to speak with him. Aaron invited him to sit. The young man looked down at his hands and said, "Sir, I saw the video of what happened to you. I had something similar happen years ago. I never told anyone." Aaron listened quietly. He let Lucas speak at his own pace. The young man explained how he had been stopped in his old neighborhood for no clear reason and treated like a suspect even though he had done nothing wrong. He said he still felt nervous whenever he saw police lights, even when he knew he had broken no rule. When Lucas finished, Aaron said softly, "Thank you for trusting me with that. Your voice matters." The soldier nodded, and Aaron added, "What you went through was not your fault. Do not let it define your worth." Many others came afterward, service members, veterans, and civilians who reached out through messages. They did not all want advice. Some only wanted someone to listen. Aaron did not have all the answers, but he offered his ear, his calm, and his honesty. He discovered that compassion was a quiet force, but a powerful one. On the civilian side, the Windsor community formed a new group called the Civic Safety Council. This group met monthly with the police department and federal monitors. The group included teachers, business owners, students, pastors, and retirees. Anyone could attend the meetings. They discussed issues openly. They asked how the department was progressing. They suggested improvements. They shared their feelings, their concerns, and their hopes. At one meeting, an elderly man stood and said, "Respect must go both ways. Officers need respect, and so do the people they serve." A young woman responded, "Yes, but respect cannot be forced. It must be earned." The monitors wrote many notes that day. The community's voice was now part of the department's structure. Something that had once been hidden was now open. Officer Leah Vaughn became a key link between the department and the community. People trusted her because she had been honest from the start. She often spoke at schools, telling students how important it was for officers to stay patient, calm, and clear. She told them, "Power is nothing without responsibility." And the students believed her because she spoke from experience. Months later, when the first yearly report of the consent decree was released, it showed real improvement. The report said that unnecessary stops were down by half and that use of force had dropped even more. It said officers were learning, adjusting, and improving. It did not claim everything was perfect, far from it. But it said the department was moving in the right direction. Aaron read the report quietly in his home. He felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Sadness because the change came from something painful. Relief because the pain had not been wasted. One afternoon, he took a drive to the same gas station where everything happened. The place looked normal. Cars fueling, people walking in and out of the store, the sun shining on the asphalt. But for Aaron, the place carried weight. He parked his car, stepped out, and stood there quietly. He was not reliving the fear. He was facing it. A young man at a nearby pump recognized him. "Are you the lieutenant from the video?" he asked. Aaron nodded gently. The young man said, "I just wanted to say, thank you. What you went through made our town better." Aaron replied, "I didn't do anything special. I only tried to stay calm." The man shook his head. Sometimes staying calm is the hardest thing. Aaron understood. The moment was small, but meaningful. It showed him that change had reached the people, not just the paperwork. Meanwhile, in another part of the state, Rendell was living a quiet life far from attention. He worked at a warehouse loading boxes during the day and returned to a small rented room at night. Sometimes he still felt angry. Sometimes he felt regret. Sometimes he felt both at once. But the world had moved on. The one thing he could not escape was the truth written in the DOJ report. He had been unfit for the job he once held. He carried that knowledge like a shadow. But it was his burden now, and no one else's. A full year after the incident, Windsor held a public gathering called Community Renewal Day. It was not a celebration of victory. It was a reminder of responsibility. Police officers stood side by side with residents. Children played. Older people talked. There was music, food, and open space for conversation. Officer Vaughn invited Aaron to attend. He came quietly, wearing simple clothes. Many people recognized him, but they respected his space. He spoke with families, shook hands with elders, and listened to the hopes people had for their town. A school teacher said to him, "Your story taught my students that one person's courage can change many lives." Aaron paused and replied, "Sometimes courage just means staying steady." Toward the end of the event, the mayor stepped forward to speak. She said, "What happened in our town was painful, but pain can teach us. Change can grow from it. And from this day forward, we choose to grow." People clapped softly. The moment was honest, not dramatic. When Aaron walked back to his car later that evening, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Peace. Not perfect peace, but real peace. A gentle peace that grows slowly, like a seed that takes time to rise. He understood now that what happened to him had touched more lives than he ever expected. It pushed a broken system to be rebuilt. It helped people speak who had been silent. It made a small town face itself honestly. As he drove home, he thought of a simple truth. Sometimes life puts us in painful places, not to crush us, but to shape us. Sometimes tears become lessons. Sometimes wounds become warnings. Sometimes calmness becomes strength. And sometimes a single night becomes the beginning of renewal. The road ahead was long for everyone, for the town, for the department, for the people who had been hurt, and for those who were learning to do better. But something new had begun. And Aaron, though marked by the past, stepped forward with quiet strength, ready for the future that awaited him.